Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis, and Senator Randy Hopper is my guest, and I've known him in a sense for probably more than 20 years. The first time I ever was sold an ad on radio, which proved to be a lot of fun, and something I've continued to enjoy, was on your station in Scott Street. Tell us a little bit about how you got into radio and eventually how you got into politics.
Sure. I was a partner in a company called Lakeside Broadcasting. A gentleman named Don Jones, who for many years owned KFIZ and then sold them in the 70s, got into cable television, had Star Cablevision in Fond du Lac area. He and I invested together and purchased KFIZ and WFON about close to 18 years ago. And so I've been working and involved in the community of predominantly Fond du Lac for that amount of time. I bought a couple of radio stations in the Sheboygan area. One in Sheboygan, one in Plymouth. Have since sold one of those stations, and I still have an AM station in that area. And then I run a Fox Cities ESPN station, 1530 in the Valley area. It's a Chilton-based radio station. So I've been a small business owner who, when you know, small radio is about serving thousands of small businesses and helping them grow their business, and that's what we've done at our radio stations for the better part of the last 18 years, and prior to me being there, for a lot longer than that. I mean, people ask me all the time, because one of our stations is KFIZ, and people ask me all the time, well, what's up with the K? And the fact is, KFIZ went on the air in 1922, and in 1923 is when Congress split the United States, the Mississippi River, and said everything west is a W, and so you noticed all the rest of the radio stations are WFON, for instance. And then everything east will be a K, but we'll allow the 6 radio stations that are in existence right now on the east side to keep their Ks if they so choose to do. And thankfully, for us, from a marketing standpoint, we kept that K.
Well, of course, radio business is extremely competitive, like most businesses are, and it's nothing that you can succeed at without working long hours and making good judgments and knowing what the opposition is doing. And we're in a high tax state. I noticed that in your ads. And you don't want the taxes to go up, neither do I. But how about the transition from that into politics? What brought that about?
I've always been someone that has followed passions in their life. Helping small businesses grow their business in the radio industry, and the excitement of working with business owners like yourself, or automotive dealers, or small restaurant, a mom and pop operation. There's a great excitement every day in doing that sort of thing. But politics is another one of my passions. The music business is one of my, business in general is a passion. The music business is one of my passions, and politics is something that I've always been very passionate about. In fact, last week we had our swearing in, and my parents were able to be there. And my mother reminded the people there that when I was 8 years old, someone said, "What do you want to be?" And I said, "I'm going to be a senator." Now, I had no idea there was such a thing as a state senator,
Sure.
but I wanted to be in that. And I think that stems from the fact in Central Illinois in the 60s, my grandfather ran for the U.S. Congress, was unsuccessful at the time, but it's a topic that was always discussed at our dinner table since I was 18 and could vote. Election night, I'm always on the phone with my father, and we've always discussed politics. And what happened in this particular case is I'm very involved in my community. I've sat on most nonprofit boards in my 17 years, and I realized a lot of that is they want to get media, they want to get some media presence. So bring the radio guy on, and we'll get that on board. But because of that, I've been involved. And when Carol Ressler decided that she wasn't going to run for the seat again, some people came and recruited me and said, "Listen, this is something that we think you'd make a great candidate. Would you consider doing it?" And then I went through that process. I believe my parents told me very early, get involved, volunteer. You need to step up to the plate, and I don't think there's a better way to do that than to put yourself out for public office, to go through the election process, and then ultimately to serve the
Had you ever run for office before?
I had not run for a single office, whether it's junior high class treasurer or any such thing like that ever.
It seemed to be a well, professionally run campaign. So I bet you got some advice and some help from people who've been through it before.
Absolutely, you have to do that as a first-time candidate. There's so much to do. It's extremely overwhelming, but it's not unlike being an entrepreneur in business. You know, when you're an entrepreneur in business, there are 10 things you've got to get done in a given day. The problem is you've got to figure out what 10 things there are. And running for office is very similar, and it's people that are willing to do the work. I recommend anybody to go through it because you never can experience what it's like. You know, I've been selling things and marketing for my whole career, but I've never been selling myself as the product as well, and that's something you do in the course of a campaign. It's a pretty exciting time.
And it's a sacrifice. First of all, it's a contact sport, and no matter how tough we think we are, some of the things that come back about us that aren't true, that can hurt our families, we're troubled about, and we reconsider doing that again if we decide just how important that was. It's an expensive sport, and the job you got doesn't pay as well as the job you're leaving. Right. So there's that sacrifice too, isn't there?
Well, I think you have to weigh all of those. You have to have it. When you get involved in something like politics, it is a family decision because, and I believe this wholeheartedly. And every event I've gone to, I've thanked my wife. The first person I thank is my wife and children because for 110 days she was a single mother. And that's tough going when you're very involved in your children's lives and very involved in the family life, which I am, to all of a sudden be gone 97% of the time, and you sort of kind of float in for a meal, and then you're back out on doors, or you're going to a council meeting or something like that. That's part of the deal. Okay,
you've got me convinced. You've got the fire in your belly. We're going to take our second break, and when we come back, you're going to tell us what you're going to do when you get down there with that fire. All right, Randy?
Great, thank you.